Malcolm, hey, congratulations on your new film, Clerk, that is already out for available for purchase everywhere.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very kindly, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem, not a problem. Thank you for speaking to us. But I have to ask this obligatory question: is what sparked you to make this film, Clerk?
Insanity,
Yeah.
stupidity, foolishness, naivete. Never make a movie about your friends. It was a difficult shoot. But in the end, it's yeah. I just wanted, Kevin, the 25th anniversary of Clerks was coming up, and I just wanted to honor it. But I didn't. There's a lot of things that I didn't take into account before I took it on. So, and me and Kevin have been friends for a long time. We have a relationship, and when you're making a documentary about somebody's life, there's a lot of negotiation. There's a lot of compromise. This is the very nature of documentary. But when it's about somebody that you know very well, it's complicated, man. It's a really complicated journey, and I'm sure for Kevin it was very complicated. It's hard. Kevin is very much a chronicler of his own life, right? Like that's his whole thing. So, for somebody in to kind of take over and to chronicle his own life, I think it made him edgy at points, but in the end, we came together to a movie that, I think we're both very happy with.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Kevin Smith is known to be an open book. I mean, he tells plenty of stories throughout, over the years. I mean, is there any?
Kevin's not an open book. Kevin controls his narrative.
Oh, really?
There's a difference. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's everybody. Like nobody's an open book, but I think that Kevin. I think Kevin shares a lot of his life with people. I mean, he's got to fill up so much content. I mean, he's always talking. Like he's always on the clock doing like a podcast or this or that. It's a lot of content, man. And like the amount of content that Kevin has to fill, that's a lot.
I mean,
so it's
is there still stories from Kevin that's still hasn't been told? Obviously, you made this documentary.
I mean, I think there's other stories that have been told. Like, sure. I mean, yeah, sure. There's stories that haven't been told, but I don't think there's anything really nefarious or like that. There's certain things, you could a movie is only a certain length of period, right? And we could have gotten deeper into a lot of stuff, but essentially, it's not really. I wanted to kind of do an all-encompassing examination. I didn't want to get bogged down by any specific thing. Like there's stuff I could have done a half hour on the whole Too Fat to Fly, him going against the critics. There's so many interesting parts that I could have gotten into more detail about, but essentially it just by the very nature of documentary, you have to set up this, you have to tell what it is and all that stuff. And all that stuff takes a lot of time. So I tried to kind of stick with I tried to kind of include as much information. Like if I was first hearing about Kevin Smith, it was just these are the things you need to know. So it's basically Clerk is a Kevin Smith primer. It's not an exhaustive, by no way is it an exhaustive look into the man. I think you just need to look at that man's work and his own podcast. He puts out enough of himself out there but this is simply a primer. This is kind of like, I wanted to make it fun for the fans, but I also wanted to be like, okay, well, this is what this guy Kevin Smith is all about.
Now tell us about your research process onto making this documentary. You had to hunt down a few extended interviews out there that to be included.
Hunt down? Well, I mean, it was people like hunting and down the interviews. Like, what would you say? Like, I sat down and talked with us. Like, we threw out a net of the people we wanted to talk to, and we ended up like I didn't want it just to be the usual suspects. That's why I was really thrilling to get like Penn Jillette in there, because it was just like it's not the obvious voice you would have, but like Penn and Teller are an influence on like Jay and Silent Bob, right? Like, it's just kind of like, and Penn Jillette helped save Kevin's life after Kevin had the heart attack, so they have a natural affinity kind of like Kevin has an affinity for Penn and Teller career wise, but also like Penn Jillette came in, and when Kevin had his heart attack came in, and Penn Jillette has struggled with his own weight issues, so Penn Jillette came in and helped Kevin a lot during that.
Now you said you have a long relationship with Kevin Smith. Could you tell us on how your relationship started with Kevin and what kind of
I met Kevin Smith in September 1994. I was a journalist for a magazine called Film Threat, and Kevin was in the Toronto Film Festival for Clerks. And a friend of mine, Paul Zimmerman, who was the editor of Film Threat at the time, had seen Clerks, I believe, at Sundance, and said like, his thing was like, Clerks is a pretty good movie, but this guy gives the best Q&A you've ever seen. So basically, I was introduced to Kevin with the concept of him being a real raconteur. So it was real. I was like, oh, I want to meet this guy. And it was funny. Like, one of the reasons Kevin brought up recently, we were doing a Q&A together, and Kevin brought up recently, apparently when I first met him and he asked me what I thought of the movie, I was like, it's all right. Which is very honest. I wasn't as overwhelmed by Clerks as the rest of the world, but I liked Kevin. I liked the way he thought. I thought he was a really interesting guy. But like, the movie Clerks wasn't. I thought Jason Mewes was great, and I think that Jeff Anders. I think the guys are great. Like Jeff. I mean, it is like Clerks is what it is. Like, it's kind of like. I mean, I think it's incredible that people still love that movie as much as like people love that. People are finding that all that time, and it's fascinating. It's just like dirty little black and white film from 1994, which seems like forever, but like young people are finding it and really, really loving it. So like, there's a power to that movie. But if we're gonna use the word fandom, like, I love Mallrats, I love Chasing Amy, I love Dogma, I love James. Like, I am a fan of his work, but ironically, it didn't start when I first met him. Like, I wasn't a huge Clerks fan.
So what do you think of Kevin's career now, since you have this ongoing relationship?
I think his career is right now it's most exciting. I think it's fascinating what that kid's up to. I think that like he could do whatever he wants, and he does do whatever he wants. Like name a filmmaker, even Tarantino. Like that spectacular run that he did from like Clerks 2, which I think is like Clerks 2, Zack and Mary Make a Porno, which I think are brilliant movies. Cop Out, which is a complicated mess, but has some incredible performances. But then you've got like Red State and Tusk, that are two profoundly original, like really, really strong, strongly directed films. They're filmmaker movies. Like, those are movies that like Kevin had a real confidence with its style. Like the style of Red State is like nothing. Like it's very very fresh. I mean, him getting back together with Dave Klein, and I think being comfortable with a DP who is that. I mean, David Klein really went out there from like the lows of Clerks. So like now he's a very sought after, incredible DP. But I think that Kevin reconnecting with David Klein was a big part of kind of Kevin, like the style of Red State. It's a really killer picture, and I think that I mean he's like he does podcasts. He kind of like he's become very much he's kind of like the like one of the old wise men of the zeitgeist. You know what I mean? Like he just kind of like he was there. Like Kevin was nostalgic about the '90s in the '90s. Like and ultimately, like I think he likes to kind of like he likes to talk about right now what people are talking about. Like he's lifetime comic book fan and supporter, and then he goes and plays in that world. Like, and he's played in so many different worlds. He's a really fascinating, like beyond being a friend and like a subject. Like he's just been a really interesting person to watch. Like be on the sidelines. He's a very fascinating individual.
I'm gonna throw this to you because I just wanted to hear your opinion because it
Holy shit.
for uh for su for such a long time a lot of people always speculated Kevin to do a comic like, hopefully a blockbuster comic book movie, but I always find his strength is much he's more creative on the low budget mid budget and what do you think about that?
I think Kevin could have. I mean, Kevin was offered. He was supposed to do Green Hornet for the longest time. Like Harvey, like Kevin. I mean, he wrote like that Superman script. Like Kevin was in that world for a bit. Like he can only answer for himself. I think he was really intimidated. I think Kevin now could make a comic book movie, but I don't think Kevin wasn't really interested in like style. Kevin was really interested in words. Like if you watch Kevin's filmmaking, like it's very like Kevin's movies aren't, especially in the beginning, aren't the most beautiful movies. They're not. They don't have that kind of like the energy comes from the dialogue, not from the shooting. And I think that to make a superhero movie, there has to be kineticism to those films that I don't think Kevin cared that much about. Kevin was so focused on the word, which is great, and it served him very well. But further moving on, I mean, I think now, I think he'd be great to do a comic book movie. I think that he has the confidence and experience, and like he certainly would know how to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. On your DVD, I noticed that there's a alternate ending. Usually that there isn't an alternate ending for many documentaries. Tell us about putting this.
The alternate ending?
Yeah.
Well, like essentially, like we kind of like I gave myself a mental time that I wanted the story to finish. I was being very rigid to myself about no, it should be 25 years, and then kind of into the 26 year, he did reboot. So it was just kind of like, do we end kind of like because like I don't want to give away like the new like the original. I love the original ending, and like if the original ending is something that really I think it left our hero Kevin in a very kind of wonderful place, and I think that the ending is now is truer to the person that Kevin is.
Oh, Saxon. Well, let me leave you with one more thought, Malcolm.
Okay.
As audiences have a chance to watch your documentary, what is the one most important thing you hope they walk away with after viewing your film?
Uh, I think I would like them to be as impressed as I am at how kind of Zelig-esque Kevin has been, or Forrest Gump-esque, where he's kind of like Kevin's been a part of so many things in this. I mean, working with working with Marvel, like Joe Quesada, like podcasting, like he just did this really funny podcast with Bert Kreischer, and like you realize that essentially the model for podcasting, those guys like Joe Rogan, like basically just borrowed from Kevin. Kevin was doing it first. Those guys like right down to like a sponsorship, like it's so interesting, like how much Kevin was there first. And it's the interesting thing about Kevin is that in so much that he's a pioneer, he doesn't really stick around for the accolades. He keeps moving. I love that. He's like a shark. He kind of keeps moving, um, just to kind of see the next thing he could conquer. Like he's not resting his laurels on any one particular thing. And I think that's a really for a creator, and for I think that's a wonderful thing to have. He's not, because he could so easily, like his life could be so much easier, but he doesn't play it to be easy. He likes to constantly challenge himself.
Well said. Well, Malcolm, thank you very much for carrying this conversation about your documentary Clerk, and hopefully everyone will go out there and pick it up because there's a lot of
Thank you very
Smith
much.
and Clerks fans. Yes.
And thank you so much for your patience. I'm sorry about the rigmarole at the beginning. I have a sick cat. I'm in panic.
Go go take care of your cat now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to meet you virtually like this.